The wedding cake hit the bakery floor with a satisfying splat, vanilla frosting exploding across my shoes like some twisted metaphor for my life. Elise stood there, her perfectly manicured hands still extended from where she'd accidentally knocked over our three-tier future, her green eyes blazing with that familiar look I'd somehow missed for months. "I can't do this anymore, Jace," she said, not even glancing at the mess. "I need someone exciting." I stared at the cake carnage, my cybersecurity consultant brain automatically calculating the cleanup cost, while my heart did something between a stutter and a complete system shutdown. 3 years together, 6 months engaged, and she picks our final cake tasting to drop this bomb. Exciting, I repeated, tasting the word like it was poison. Right, because debugging corporate firewalls and preventing identity theft is apparently boring as hell. Elise flipped her blonde hair over her shoulder, a gesture I used to find endearing but now recognized as pure manipulation. "You know what I mean. Carter always said you were too predictable." Carter, of course. Her ex, who'd been circling our relationship like a vulture in $1,000 suit. Carter Lane, Pinewood's golden boy, with his flashy downtown loft and mysterious income sources that screamed money laundering to anyone with half a brain. "Carter's been talking about me?" I asked, crouching down to pick up a chunk of cake. The bakery owner, Mrs. Henderson, watched from behind the counter like this was better than her afternoon soap operas. "We've been talking," Elise said, and there it was, the admission wrapped in careful words, but I heard what she wasn't saying. I stood up slowly, cake still in my hand. "Talking, sure. Let me guess. He's exciting?" Her cheeks flushed pink, confirming everything. "He understands what I need, Jace. Adventure, passion. Not some guy who spends Friday nights updating security protocols. Those security protocols pay for your Starbucks addiction and that designer purse collection," I said, my voice eerily calm. Inside, something was shifting, like tectonic plates rearranging themselves. But hey, if Carter's cryptocurrency schemes and Daddy's trust fund are more exciting than actual work, who am I to judge? Elise's eyes narrowed. "At least he's not afraid to take risks." "Right, because fraud and money laundering are such admirable risks." I dropped the cake chunk back onto the floor. "Tell me, Elise, how long has this talking been going on?" She had the decency to look uncomfortable for about half a second. "It doesn't matter now. What matters is that I can't marry someone who makes me feel dead inside." Dead inside. The words hit like a physical blow, but something strange happened. Instead of crumbling, I felt that shift inside me solidify into something harder, something that had been building through months of her subtle criticisms, her eye rolls when I explained my work, her constant comparisons to other couples who seemed more fun. "You know what, Elise? You're absolutely right." I pulled off my engagement ring and set it on the counter next to the cake order form. "You do need someone exciting. Someone who'll give you exactly what you deserve." She blinked, clearly expecting more of a fight. "Jace, nope." I held up a hand. "You've made your choice. Carter's exciting, I'm boring. Case closed. Just do me one favor." "What?" I smiled, and it felt like ice cracking. "When the excitement gets too real, don't come crying to me." I walked out of Henderson's bakery, leaving Elise standing in the wreckage of our wedding cake. And for the first time in months, I felt completely clear-headed. She wanted excitement? She'd forgotten who she was messing with. 2 days later, I was sitting in Sam's auto shop, watching my best friend since high school wrestle with a particularly stubborn transmission, while I nursed a beer and tried to pretend my life wasn't imploding. "So let me get this straight," Sam said, his voice muffled by the car's undercarriage. "Princess Elise dumps you for that slick-haired trust fund baby, and you're just gonna sit there drinking my beer and feeling sorry for yourself." "Pretty much." I took another sip. Sam's garage smelled like motor oil and honest work, a sharp contrast to the sterile fintech office where Elise spent her days managing other people's money and apparently planning her escape from our relationship. Sam rolled out from under the car, his weathered face skeptical. "That's not the Jace Morgan the first know. The Jace I know once hacked into our high school's system to change Tommy Brennan's grades back when Tommy was failing chemistry. That was different. Tommy needed help, and you don't." Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Hope you're enjoying your freedom, E." I showed Sam the message. He whistled low. "She's really twisting the knife, isn't she?" "Gets better." I scrolled through my phone. She's been posting all over social media about her new adventure and finding real love. Madison and Priya are eating it up, commenting heart emojis on every post. Madison Torres, Elise's best friend since college, had never liked me. Too boring, too practical, not enough drama for her taste. Priya Patel, Elise's coworker, was a social climber who'd probably sell her grandmother for a promotion. They'd been Elise's cheerleading squad throughout our relationship, always pushing her toward better options. What about Carter? He posting too. I pulled up Carter's Instagram. Oh, this is good. Look at this. Sam peered at my phone screen. Carter had posted a photo of himself and Elise at some upscale restaurant, her head on his shoulder, both of them looking disgustingly happy. The caption read, "Sometimes you have to take what you want. Hash no regrets, hash upgrade complete." Upgrade complete? Sam's eyebrows shot up. This guy's got some serious balls, or serious stupidity. I was already opening my laptop, fingers flying across the keyboard. You know what's funny about social media, Sam? People share way too much information. Uh-oh, I know that look. What are you doing? Research. I was deep in my element now, cross-referencing Carter's posts with public records, financial databases, anything I could access legally. See, Carter thinks he's smart, but he's sloppy. Look at this. I turned the laptop towards Sam. He posts photos from his loft all the time. High-end electronics, expensive art, designer furniture. But according to his tax returns, which are public record for his consulting business, he reported an income of $60,000 last year. Sam squinted at the screen. I don't know much about money, but that math doesn't add up. Exactly. Nobody buys a $200,000 car on a $60,000 salary. Not legally, anyway. I kept typing, diving deeper into Carter's digital footprint. And look at this. He's been tagged at the same restaurant 12 times in the past month, always with different women, including 3 times with Elise while we were still engaged. The betrayal stung, but it was overwhelmed by something else, the thrill of the hunt. This was what I was good at, finding patterns, uncovering hidden connections, following digital breadcrumbs that people thought they'd covered. So what's the plan? Sam asked. You gonna report him to the IRS? Maybe. But first, I want to know exactly what I'm dealing with. I pulled up another screen. Carter's not just cheating on his taxes. Look at these network logs from my home system. Sam looked confused. You're what now? Someone's been trying to hack into my personal accounts. Credit cards, bank records, email. The attempt started 3 weeks ago. I highlighted a series of IP addresses. Want to guess where they're coming from? Carter's place? Bingo. He's been using Elise to get information about me. My passwords, security questions, account numbers. They've been planning this. Sam sat down heavily on a work stool. Planning what? I'm not sure yet, but I'm going to find out. I closed the laptop and finished my beer. You know what the beautiful thing about being a cybersecurity expert is, Sam? What's that? I know exactly how to make someone's digital life very, very complicated. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a notification from my home security system. Someone was at my front door. I checked the camera feed and felt my jaw clench. Elise was standing on my porch, looking around nervously. She was alone, and she looked like she'd been crying. Speak of the devil, I muttered, showing Sam the screen. You gonna answer it? I thought about it for a moment, then smiled. Yeah, I think I will. This should be interesting. I got home 20 minutes later to find Elise sitting on my front steps, her designer purse clutched in her lap like a shield. She looked up when my car pulled into the driveway, and I could see she'd been crying for real this time, not the pretty, single-tear crying she did when she wanted sympathy. Jace, thank God you're here. She stood up quickly, smoothing down her skirt. We need to talk. Do we? I walked past her to unlock my front door. I thought you said everything you needed to say at the bakery. Please, just 5 minutes. Against my better judgment, I let her in. She followed me to the living room, where she perched on the edge of the couch like she was ready to bolt at any second. Carter's in trouble, she said without preamble. What kind of trouble? I kept my voice neutral, but inside I was celebrating. Whatever I'd missed in my research, it was apparently catching up with him. Financial trouble, legal trouble. I don't know all the details, but some people came to his loft today asking questions about his business. She twisted her engagement ring. My old engagement ring, I noticed with a fresh stab of anger. He thinks someone's been investigating him. Imagine that. I sat down across from her, studying her face. And you're telling me this because he thinks it might be you. There it was. I kept my expression carefully blank. Why would he think that? Come on, Jace. You're a cybersecurity expert. You have access to all kinds of databases. And you're probably pretty angry about us. She had the grace to look ashamed for about 2 seconds. He's paranoid that you're trying to get revenge. Are you asking me if I'm investigating your boyfriend? Are you? I leaned back in my chair, enjoying this more than I probably should have. Elise, 3 days ago you told me I was too boring to marry. Now you're worried I'm exciting enough to destroy Carter's life? Which is it? She flinched. I know you're angry. Angry? I laughed, and it didn't sound entirely sane. Angry is when someone cuts you off in traffic. What I am is enlightened. You opened my eyes to exactly who you are, and honestly, I should thank you. What's that supposed to mean? It means I've been doing some thinking about our relationship. About all those times you said I was boring, all those comparisons to other couples, all those suggestions that I should be more like Carter. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the street. Want to know what I figured out? Jace. I figured out that you've been cheating on me for months. Not just emotionally, physically, with Carter, probably with others. I figured out that you've been feeding him information about me, helping him try to hack my accounts. I turned back to face her. I figured out that you never loved me at all. I was just convenient until something better came along. Elise's face went white. That's not true, isn't it? You want to know if I'm investigating Carter? Yeah, Elise, I am. And you know what I found? She didn't answer, just stared at me with wide eyes. I found out that your exciting boyfriend is a fraud. His money comes from cryptocurrency scams and identity theft. Those consulting fees, he reports, they're payments from people whose lives he's destroyed. That loft you're so impressed with, it's bought with stolen money. You're lying. Am I? Ask him about the Hendersons' retirement fund. You know, Mrs. Henderson from the bakery? Carter cleaned out their savings account last month through a phishing scam. They're going to lose their house. Elise stood up abruptly. I don't believe you. Then ask him. But here's the thing, Elise. When the FBI comes knocking, and they will, you better hope you can prove you didn't know. Because accessory to fraud carries a pretty heavy sentence. She was backing toward the door now, her face a mix of anger and fear. You're just trying to scare me. No, I'm trying to warn you. But if you want to go down with that ship, be my guest. I smiled, and this time it felt genuine. You wanted excitement, right? Well, federal prison is definitely exciting. She slammed the door on her way out, but not before I saw the doubt creeping into her eyes. Phase 1 was complete. I pulled out my phone and called Sam. It's me. How do you feel about a little field trip tonight? What kind of field trip? The kind where we give Carter exactly the kind of excitement he's been asking for. The next morning, I was sitting in Pinewood's most popular cafe, the Daily Grind, watching the morning rush and waiting for the show to begin. The cafe was perfect for my purposes. Central location, lots of windows. And most importantly, it was where Madison and Priya held court every morning, spreading gossip like it was their job. They were at their usual table by the window, both scrolling through their phones and commenting on everyone who walked by. Perfect. My phone buzzed with a text from Sam. Package delivered. You sure about this? I typed back. Trust me. At exactly 8:30 a.m., Carter's Tesla came roaring down Main Street, black smoke pouring from the exhaust. The car was making a sound like a dying elephant, backfiring every few seconds and leaving a trail of what looked like foam behind it. Madison looked up first. Oh my God, is that Carter's car? The Tesla lurched to a stop right in front of the cafe, smoke billowing from under the hood. Carter jumped out, his usually perfect hair disheveled, his expensive suit wrinkled. He was shouting into his phone, but I couldn't hear the words through the glass. What happened to his car? Priya asked, pressing her face against the window. Carter popped the hood, and more smoke poured out. That's when he saw it, the note I'd left tucked under the battery cover. Even from inside the cafe, I could see his face turn red as he read it. The note was simple. Excitement found. J.M. Carter crumpled the paper and looked around wildly. His eyes locked on the cafe window, scanning the faces inside. When he saw me sitting calmly at my corner table, sipping coffee and watching the show, His expression went from angry to murderous. He stormed into the cafe, leaving his smoking car in the middle of the street. "You son of a bitch," he shouted, pointing at me. "What did you do to my car?" The entire cafe went silent. Madison and Priya were staring open-mouthed, their phones already out and recording. Perfect. Carter, right? I stood up slowly, keeping my voice calm and reasonable. "I'm sorry, do we know each other? Don't play dumb. You sabotaged my car." "Did I?" "That's a serious accusation." I looked around at the other customers, all of whom were now watching with fascination. "Do you have any proof of that?" Carter's jaw worked soundlessly for a moment. He couldn't exactly explain how he knew it was me, without admitting he'd been trying to hack my accounts. "I know it was you," he said finally. "Well, I know you've been sleeping with my ex-fiancée for months while we were engaged, but you don't see me making a scene about it." I shrugged. "Cars break down, Carter. Maybe you should have bought American." A few people in the cafe chuckled. Carter's face got redder. "You have no idea who you're messing with," he said, stepping closer. "Actually, I do. You're Carter Lane, age 34, son of Robert and Patricia Lane of Boston. You claim to run a consulting business, but your real income comes from cryptocurrency fraud and identity theft. You've stolen approximately $2.3 million over the past 18 months, including the retirement savings of at least 6 elderly couples in this town." The cafe was dead silent now. Madison's phone was still recording, and I could see other people pulling out their devices. Carter went pale. "You're insane." "Am I? Mrs. Henderson, would you like to tell everyone about the mysterious charge that emptied your savings account last month? The one that traced back to a cryptocurrency wallet registered to Lane Consulting?" Mrs. Henderson, who was sitting at a table near the counter, stood up slowly. She was a small woman in her 70s, but her voice carried clearly across the cafe. "You stole our money," she said, staring at Carter. 40 years of savings. Gone. Carter looked around desperately as other customers began murmuring. Some of them were looking at him with recognition, and not the good kind. "That's impossible," he said, but his voice cracked. "I don't know what you're talking about." "The FBI does," I said calmly. "I sent them a very detailed report yesterday. They should be contacting you soon." Carter lunged at me then, but I was ready. I sidestepped, and he crashed into an empty table, sending chairs flying. The entire cafe erupted in chaos, people shouting and recording everything. "Get off me," Carter yelled, trying to untangle himself from the furniture. "I'm not touching you," I said, still calm. "But you might want to leave before the police get here. Someone probably called them when you started shouting." As if on cue, sirens wailed in the distance. Carter scrambled to his feet, looked around at all the recording phones, and ran for the door. He tried to start his Tesla, but it just made that dying elephant sound again. After 30 seconds of trying, he abandoned it and took off on foot down Main Street. The cafe erupted in laughter and applause. Madison and Priya were staring at me like they'd never seen me before. "Holy shit, Jace," Madison said. "I had no idea you had that in you." "Neither did I admitted. "But it turns out boring guys can be pretty exciting when we want to be." My phone buzzed with a text from Elise. "What did you do?" I typed back. "Gave you exactly what you asked for. How's the excitement level now?" She didn't respond. That night, I was at home reviewing the day's social media explosion when my security system chimed. Someone was at my back door, trying to be quiet about it. I checked the camera feed and saw 2 familiar figures creeping across my yard. Carter and Elise, back for round 2. I grabbed my phone and texted Sam. "They're here, you in position, ready when you are." I waited until they reached the door, then flipped on the back porch light and opened it before they could knock. Well, well, if it isn't Pinewood's most exciting couple. I stepped aside. "Come on in, we need to talk." They exchanged glances but came inside. Carter looked like he'd been through hell. His expensive clothes were rumpled, his hair was a mess, and there were dark circles under his eyes. "You destroyed my life," he said without preamble. "Did I? How so?" "The FBI froze all my accounts. My landlord evicted me. My car's totaled. And thanks to your little performance this morning, everyone in town thinks I'm a criminal." "Aren't you?" Elise stepped forward. "Jace, please. Carter made some mistakes, but—" "Mistakes?" I laughed. "Elise, he stole people's life savings. Mrs. Henderson is going to lose her house because of your boyfriend's mistakes." "That's not proven," Carter said. "And even if it was, you had no right to destroy my property." "What property?" Oh, you mean the Tesla that was bought with stolen money? The one that's evidence in a federal investigation? I shook my head. Carter, you're not the victim here. Neither are you, he exploded. So Elise left you. Big deal. People break up every day. That doesn't give you the right to ruin my life. You're right, I said calmly. People do break up every day, but most people don't try to hack their ex's bank accounts while they're doing it. Carter went very still. What are you talking about? The attempted intrusions into my financial accounts, the keylogger software you tried to install on my laptop, the phishing emails designed to look like they came from my bank. I pulled out my phone and showed him a screenshot. Every single attempt traced back to your IP address. Elise was staring at Carter now. You tried to steal from Jace? I was protecting us, Carter said desperately. He was investigating me, trying to destroy everything we had. What we had was built on lies. Elise's voice was rising. You told me you were a successful consultant. You said you made your money legitimately. I do. The cryptocurrency thing is just theft, I finished. And now you're both in trouble, because the FBI is going to want to know how much Elise knew. Carter's face twisted with rage. You smug bastard. You think you're so smart, sitting there in your boring little house, with your boring little life, judging everyone else. Actually, I think I'm pretty lucky. See, boring guys like me, we tend to be careful. We keep records, we make backups, we plan ahead. I smiled. For instance, I've been recording this entire conversation. Both of them went pale. You can't do that, Elise said. It's illegal to record people without consent. Actually, in this state, only one party needs to consent to recording a conversation. That would be me. I held up my phone. And you both just admitted to multiple felonies. Carter snapped. He lunged at me, grabbing for the phone, but I was ready. I dodged backward, toward the kitchen, and he followed. Give me that phone. Sam, I shouted. Now would be good. The back door burst open, and Sam came in carrying a baseball bat. But Carter was past caring about odds. He grabbed a knife from my kitchen counter and waved it at both of us. Nobody's leaving until I get that recording. Carter, put the knife down, Elise said, her voice shaking. This is insane. Insane. You want to know what's insane? I had everything. Money, respect, the perfect life. And this boring little nobody destroyed it all because he couldn't handle losing his girlfriend. You destroyed it yourself, I said. I just helped everyone else see what you really are. Carter screamed in frustration and charged at me with the knife. I dove sideways, crashing into the kitchen table. And the knife embedded itself in the wall where my head had been. That's it, Sam said. I'm calling the cops. No! Carter yanked the knife out of the wall. We're leaving, all of us, right now. He grabbed Elise's arm and dragged her toward the back door. Move! They disappeared into the darkness, and I could hear them crashing through the woods behind my house. Sam was already on the phone with 911, but I knew where Carter was going. They're heading for the construction site, I told Sam. The new office complex on Elm Street. Carter's been using it as a hideout. How do you know that? Because boring guys like me do our homework. We followed them into the night. The construction site was a maze of half-built walls and exposed steel beams, lit only by security lights that cast long, twisted shadows everywhere. Sam and I approached carefully, listening for voices. We found them near the base of what would eventually be a 5-story office building. Carter was pacing back and forth, still holding the knife, while Elise sat on a pile of lumber looking defeated. This is all your fault, Carter was saying. If you hadn't told him about my business. I didn't tell him anything, Elise shot back. He figured it out himself, which should tell you something about how sloppy you've been. Sloppy? I was careful. I covered my tracks. Apparently not well enough. I stepped out of the shadows, Sam beside me. She's right, Carter. You were sloppy. Carter spun around, raising the knife. Stay back. Or what? You'll stab me? In front of witnesses? With the police already on their way? I shook my head. You're not a killer, Carter. You're just a thief who got in over his head. You don't know anything about me. I know everything about you. I know you started with small-time credit card fraud in college. I know you escalated to cryptocurrency scams when you moved to Pinewood. I know you've been targeting elderly victims because you thought they'd be too embarrassed or confused to report it. I took a step closer. I know you seduced my fiancée because you thought she could give you access to my security systems. Elise looked up sharply. What? Oh, you didn't know? Carter wasn't interested in you, Elise. He was interested in what you could tell him about me. My passwords, my security questions, my financial information. You were just a tool. That's not true, Carter said. But his voice lacked conviction. Isn't it? Tell her about the other women, Carter. Tell her about Madison. Elise stood up slowly. Madison? What about Madison? Carter's face went white. Elise, I can explain. You've been sleeping with Madison too? Her voice was deadly quiet. It wasn't like that. What was it like, Carter? Were you pumping her for information too? Or was she just for fun? Carter looked trapped. Elise, please. She picked up a piece of rebar from the ground. You son of a bitch. You made me destroy my relationship, my reputation, my entire life. For what? So you could use me? I loved you. You loved what I could do for you. She swung the rebar at him, and he jumped back, dropping the knife. Elise, calm down. Calm down. Calm down. She swung again, and this time she connected with his shoulder. Carter screamed and stumbled backward. That's enough, Sam said, stepping forward. Elise, put it down. No, he destroyed everything. My job, my friends, my future, all for his stupid scams. She advanced on Carter, who was backing up toward the building's framework. You want excitement, Carter? Here's some excitement for you. She swung the rebar again, and Carter dodged backward, right into one of the support beams. The impact knocked him off his feet, and he tumbled into an open foundation pit. We all ran to the edge and looked down. Carter was lying at the bottom, about 8 feet down, groaning and holding his leg. I think it's broken, he called up weakly. Good, Elise said, dropping the rebar. I hope it hurts. Sirens were getting closer now. Red and blue lights were flashing through the trees. This is Detective Rayford, came a voice through a bullhorn. The site is surrounded. Come out with your hands visible. Over here, Sam called. We need an ambulance. Within minutes, the construction site was crawling with police and EMTs. They hauled Carter out of the pit on a stretcher, his leg clearly broken, and loaded him into an ambulance under police guard. Detective Rayford, a tall black woman with sharp eyes, took our statements while Elise sat in the back of a patrol car. So let me get this straight, Rayford said. This Carter guy was running cryptocurrency scams, tried to hack your accounts, and kidnapped you at knife point. That's about the size of it. And your ex-fiancée was working with him? I looked over at Elise, who was crying into her hands. I think she was more of a victim than an accomplice. He manipulated her. Rayford followed my gaze. That's generous of you, considering she cheated on you and helped him try to rob you. Yeah, well, she's going to have to live with that. That's punishment enough. But I was wrong about that. 3 weeks later, I was back at the daily grind, reading the morning paper and enjoying the relative peace of my newly single life. The FBI had arrested Carter on multiple counts of fraud and identity theft. Elise had been questioned but not charged. Apparently, they believed she was just another victim of his manipulation. Madison and Priya were at their usual table, but the dynamic had changed. Madison looked miserable, constantly checking her phone and getting increasingly agitated. I can't believe he was using me too, she was saying to Priya. I thought he actually liked me. At least you didn't leave your fiancé for him, Priya replied. Poor Elise. She lost everything. It was true. Elise had been fired from her job when the scandal broke. Her parents had disowned her, disgusted by the public humiliation. She was living in a studio apartment across town, working as a waitress and trying to rebuild her life. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Can we talk, please? E. I was about to delete it when the cafe door chimed, and Elise walked in. She looked terrible, thin, pale, with dark circles under her eyes. Her designer clothes had been replaced with a cheap waitress uniform from the diner where she worked. She saw me and walked over hesitantly. Hi, Jace. Elise. I didn't invite her to sit down. I know you probably don't want to see me, but I needed to apologize for everything. She stood there awkwardly, twisting her hands. I was stupid and selfish, and I hurt you, and I'm sorry. Okay, that's it? Just okay? I looked up from my paper. What do you want me to say, Elise? That I forgive you? That we can be friends? That I understand why you threw away 3 years for a criminal? Her eyes filled with tears. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I need you to know that I didn't mean for any of this to happen. You didn't mean to cheat on me for months? You didn't mean to help Carter try to hack my accounts? You didn't mean to humiliate me in front of the entire town? I folded my paper and stood up. Which part was the accident exactly? I thought I loved him. No, you thought you loved his money, his excitement, his status. You loved the idea of trading up from boring old me. I picked up my coffee. Well, congratulations. You got exactly what you wanted. This isn't what I wanted. Her voice was loud enough that the entire cafe turned to look. Madison and Priya were staring, along with everyone else. Isn't it? You said you needed someone exciting. Carter was definitely exciting. You said you were dead inside with me. Well, now you're free to feel as alive as you want. I started walking toward the door. You made your choice, Elise. Live with it. Jace, wait. I turned back. You know what the funny thing is? I actually would have forgiven you if you'd just left me for someone else. People fall out of love, it happens. But you didn't just leave me, you tried to destroy me. You helped Carter steal from me, lie about me, ruin my reputation. You turned my friends against me and made me look like a fool. I didn't. Yes, you did. And now you want my sympathy because it backfired? Because your exciting boyfriend turned out to be a fraud? Because your friends abandoned you when the truth came out? I shook my head. You're not sorry you hurt me, Elise. You're sorry you got caught. I walked out of the cafe, leaving her standing there in front of everyone. Through the window, I could see her crying, but I felt nothing. My phone rang as I got to my car. It was Sam. Hey, you see the news? What news? Carter just got sentenced. 15 years in federal prison. No parole. I smiled for the first time in weeks. Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. There's more. Apparently, he tried to make a deal by claiming Elise was his partner, not his victim. The FBI didn't buy it, but it's going to be in all the papers tomorrow. Ouch. That'll finish what's left of her reputation. You feel bad about that? I thought about it as I drove home through the quiet streets of Pinewood. Did I feel bad? Elise had lost her job, her friends, her family's respect, and now even her victim status was being questioned. She was working as a waitress, living in poverty, and facing years of rebuilding her life from scratch. Carter was going to spend the next decade and a half in a federal prison. His money gone, his freedom gone, his future destroyed. Both of them had gotten exactly what they deserved. No, I told Sam, I don't feel bad at all. And I didn't. For the first time since this whole mess started, I felt completely at peace. Justice had been served, not through violence or illegal revenge, but through the simple act of exposing the truth and letting the consequences play out naturally. I'd given them exactly what they'd asked for: excitement, consequences, and a front row seat to watch their carefully constructed lies crumble into dust. Some might call it revenge. I called it justice. Either way, it was over.